add, and this time what you want to do, you want to add a new form. Okay, so let's go new item, new folder, let's see, go new item. And the new item that you will want to do is going to be a form, and it's going to be a Windows form. Yes?
I didn't get that pop up.
Okay. So you're telling me that if you go to project 2 and you right click on it and you say add, and look at what I do. I'm going to do a new item at the top. You don't have that?
I click on new item, but I get a different pop-up.
Okay, so new item.
You have to put show all.
Oh, it's all show templates?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay, so you have that, and you're not going to add a class, although the form is a class. Okay, and so here it is, third, fourth item. You want a form, which is going to be a Windows form. Okay, that's what you want, and it would call it form 2. It's okay, Miss Salam-Nicola. You can just take all the pictures you want.
No, I'm doing it. I swear.
I know, you're a multitasker. No problem, it's okay. So, now, form 2. This is going to be the form that's going to be displaying the chart for you. So maybe, I don't know what name you might want to call it. Okay, form chart display, I don't know. I mean, again, it's a form, okay, so you want to call it form underscore and whatever makes sense to you. Now, once you've done that, you can just say add this new item, and boom. Now I have another form, notice right there, okay? And it is a form that you can fill in with whatever controls you want, okay? By the same token, if I were to go back to my first form, maybe I should have changed the name, as I said, we follow our own discipline, but if I go to my first form, this is what it looks like. So you can add as many different forms as you want to your project, and customize them to ask whatever information you want. So here, very quickly, I'll show you how this can be done like in less than a minute without doing all the conventional stuff. But I'm going to say, okay, let's bring up our toolbar, and we're going to say, oh yeah, on this form we know that we're going to have a load button. We're also going to have our date time pickers. Okay, so here's our date time picker. I'm going to have one here. Date time picker, I'm going to have another one. And then you say, oh yeah, we want to make sure that things look pretty cute, so I'm going to have a label so that people know exactly what we're talking about. So I'm putting a label on top here. I'm going to put another label on top over here. And oh yes, what else do we need for all this? We're going to need our open file dialog. So open file dialog, I put it, and here it is. Now, okay, remember, all of these you would have to set the names appropriately, okay? Otherwise, so here it is. I'm going to have, however you want to arrange these things, okay? So, this, put my start date on this side, my end date on this side, and my labels will say start and end. I just want to show you now, if you were at home, you would make sure that you would change the name of these guys, set the appropriate starting date so that you don't have to keep changing it every time you start your application. Your button, you put the proper naming in front of it. And we don't need this thing to have so much wasted space. So there it is. This would be our first window, so that if I run the project, what would come up is this. And on that, you would just say, okay, I want to set this particular date, you click on button 1. That should bring up your open file dialog like you did before, and once you do that, the user would pick one or more file names. That make sense? Okay. So now, you would say, well, what about my other form, okay, my chart display? Well, what should go on that chart display?
Chart.
Okay, that's right, you should have a chart. And you know how to set up a chart, so I'll show you real quickly. We have our chart, okay? But we had also said that what we want our button, and we said this is a refresh button. And we also have here our date time pickers. Now, I will explain why you want those. And again, you have a date time picker here for the start. You're gonna have one here for the end, okay? And just so that people know what those things are, you're gonna say, okay, I have a label over here. Okay, that might be my label 1, and then double click, that gave me a label 2. Be careful, when you double click, it puts it on the last location. They might hide each other, and of course you would set that up. Now, the thing I had told you about the chart, okay, is that you should dock it to the top. Why? So that when you make the window bigger, it follows on. So the way you do it, you go here, you ask for the properties of the chart, and under the properties, if you look at them in alphabetical order, you can look for dock, D-O-C-K. Where are you gonna dock this control? Here it is. It says none, so right now it's wherever you put it. But if you did this, it shows you all the different options. Right now you are in the none. There's no docking. And then you can say, I want to dock with the top, and boom, see what just happened? My chart is now stuck with the top, and it will stretch along with this. In fact, if I were to, well, right now, if I just run it, this thing doesn't show up. What shows up is just my main form. Okay, so as a quick example of how this would be done, do you agree that once you've selected multiple files, you're probably just going to go through some sort of loop to go through each file that is in the file names string array? Because the open file dialog, as we said, when you select multiple files, it has to save those names somewhere. They are in the property called file names plural. Okay, there's file name, which is just one file, which is the first one you pick. So if you only pick one, file name has that. But when you pick multiple, you get an array. As a matter of fact, if you pick only one, file names will be an array of file name, but with only one file name in it, okay? So now you're gonna go through all the file names, and what should you do with each file name? Well, pretty much what you did in project 1. Go read the file name and get back a list of candlesticks, okay? But now, instead of doing anything with that, you're gonna say, I am going to now bring up a form that's going to display that information. So this is just a crude attempt to show you how it would work. If I go to my first form and I say, okay, let me make an event handler. Again, I'm not changing the name, I'm just trying to be quick here. I have an event handler, and this is gonna take the open file dialog, which name I didn't change, but open file dialog, and again, it's a show dialog. Okay. Okay, so that's gonna do that. Okay, and then on my open file dialog, I can say, hey, what happens when I have a file okay? So I'm gonna double click. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong design here. I need to go to this guy. Project 2, bear with me a second. So in project 2, if I go to form 1, okay, if I go to this open file dialog, and I ask for the properties of this, it will say, under the event, file okay. So now, when I have a file okay in my new project 2, okay, this is where I will want to take my form chart display. Notice I have a mistake on that. So before I have any issue, well, I'll change that for now here. Bear with me a quick second. I don't want to have a problem later with that. So form chart display. Okay, here's how you do that. You go to your Explorer, okay, project 2, form chart display, right click on it, rename it, display, chart display. Okay, that's all I'm gonna call it. hit enter, it's gonna tell you, hey, do you wanna change that name everywhere where it occurred? I say yes. Okay, now we're good. And I can now go back to my Form 1 design, this guy, my open file dialog. Again, I'm going to the code for it, and I'm gonna say, I want to create a new form. So, form underscore chart display, okay? Actually, it is a form, isn't it? And I don't even have to do anything, but I can say form chart display, and I can say, hey, I want you to show yourself. But I'm having an issue here, form chart display. It should know what it is. Let's see if, what is it doing? Okay, what we need to do, we need to create a form, okay? So it's gonna be a form, let's just say form F equals new, and our class is of type, if you go here in the code for it, so if you wanna see how it is, see, it's a form chart display, so you have this class, okay? You just want to instantiate this thing. And right now, this is just temporary, okay? I just want to show you how easy things are going to be. You've designed a new type form to display things. So that's a type. You can use that type as I have here and say create a new one, and then when you created a new one, what do you want to do? You want to show it. The thing is, you don't want to show it as a dialogue, you want to just show it so that you can show multiple charts and interact with all the different charts. If you show it as a dialogue, it will put up the chart, and then you won't be able to do anything until you dismiss that chart. Again. All right. So this is what you would want to do. Now notice, this you would have to do for as many files as were chosen. Right now, I'm assuming just one. So if I run this thing, okay, and I click on the button, it will bring up this thing. It's allowing, I didn't change for multiple chart yet. So I say open, and you see what it just did? It created another form. This form will have the chart. What we have to do, and we'll be thinking about it for the next lecture, is how do I pass this to this new form, the list of candlesticks, the time that I want it to display, and so on. So that will be done in this code, and it will be through the constructor. That form chart display, okay, that exists, let's see, wherever I called it. That, find all references, there's gonna be a constructor right here. This is where the constructor is. I want to see, it doesn't show me. You will have to have a constructor for your new class. But that's going to be a constructor that's going to take a few pieces of information so that when you create the new form, if, from your input form, the input form will say, I'm going to instantiate one of you. Right now we just did, but we didn't pass the information, so we just got a form, okay? Where we're going to say, no, we're going to add to our constructors another one. That one is going to take the list of candlesticks, okay, just so that you know what's going to happen. So once you clicked on this, the open file dialog comes up,